Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Mr. Parks back with another math video for 5th grade for lesson 2.4. So for this lesson, we are working on using compatible numbers to find estimates, which sounds like it should be easy enough, but sometimes this can cause a little bit of complication. So what we want to do is try to find some numbers that we can work with that fall nicely with the numbers for our basic math facts. So for this first example, we are saying that 22 is close to 20. And we're going to use that number 20 as our divisor for both problems. So 154, if we wanted to count by 20s, is somewhere between 140 and 160. So we would do a division problem to find our answer for that. So our quotient for the first one would be 7. Our second quotient would be 8. And if we wanted to find the exact answer, we should be able to get an answer that falls somewhere between 7 and 8. And because 154 is closer to 160, our quotient should be closer to 8 than it is to 7. So just a couple of things that we're going to think about. Now, number 2, what do we do with this pair of numbers? So I am going to recommend that you pause the video real quick if you need to. I'm going to leave a short pause to see if you can think about what we might try to do with this number and how we can relate it to our dividend, our starting amount for our division problem. So 3, 2, 1. And if you paused, I hope you came to the conclusion that if we round this to the nearest 10, we can get the number 70 as our divisor. So now we need to use our math facts and figure out, well, what are the two closest numbers that we could get to? So I'm just going to write this up here for now. What are our two closest numbers that would fall close to 50 for our math facts for counting by sevens? So pause again if you need to. So our answer, 7 times 7 would give us 49. 7 times 8 would give us 56. And so when we set up our problem, we can use 70 here, and we can use 490 for one and 560 for the other. So we would set up our problem to look a little bit like this. I'm just going to draw a little line to kind of divide things out. And we want to start with 490 divided by 70 equals 70. Or excuse me, 7. Sorry. 560 divided by 70 equals 8. So as long as students are comfortable with their basic math facts, I consider basic math facts anything from 1 times 1 all the way up to 12 times 12. Those are the ones that we asked students to memorize as 3rd graders, or at least try to get as close as we could. And so we keep coming back to these sets of math facts. So we want numbers that are easy to work with, but we want to make the quotient that we're starting with for our division problem be related to what our basic math fact number is that goes for the divisor. Okay? So that's one thing that we want to keep a really close eye on while we work through this lesson. So now, one question that we are going to ask with this is, how can we figure out whether the quotient is closer to one number or the other? So if we go ahead and look at this, we are really close to 300. So I would go ahead and kind of pencil this in underneath. We are trying to do 300 divided by, and the closest number that we would get would be 30. So this would probably be our math problem that is the most accurate. And of course, Since this is the closest pair of numbers that we have to work with, we can feel pretty confident in saying that the answer to this should be 10 because both of our numbers are close. Now, what happens if they're not? We can go back and take a look. So if it doesn't work out neatly like this, we can go back and take a look here. So this kind of example, they're going to ask students to do multiple rounds of finding compatible numbers to get two different estimates so that they can compare. So again, back for this one, we're going to divide by the same number both times. That's perfect. We want to try to see which of our two dividends is closest to the dividend that is here. That's going to be the one that gives us the closest quotient or answer to the problem. So, not a lot of things to talk about, but the work can be a little bit daunting, especially if you're someone, either a parent trying to help a student or a student that is not super comfortable with basic math facts. I would say try to take any of these numbers, go to the nearest 10. That will give you a number like 8 or 6 or 3 or 2, and then adjust these numbers accordingly. You can round to the nearest 100, you can round to the nearest 10, however you can make it work to get the numbers that you need to work with, okay? Even for this one, I might say we could go all the way up to 800, we might be able to go up to 40 for this one. We could also go down to 20 and see which one we would be closer to. There's different ways that we can approach this. But if you're coming at it from looking at what your basic math facts are and using that to guide the numbers you choose, you should be able to find an estimate that will work for you with the math facts that you know. All right, so let's talk about these real quick. So for my students, I'm probably not going to give them every single one of these on the page, especially without giving you some paper to work on them, because we might run out of space pretty quickly here. So for all of these, for 2 through 4, we want to find two different estimates. I would recommend using the same divisor for this one, use the same divisor for this one, and then just adjust your dividends up and down as you need to. All right, same thing for this one, although we might be able to do something different with this. Maybe we could make this one be something easier to work with, like 2,000, and we could maybe make this to be 20 or 40, and of course we would be a little bit closer to one of those than the other. For our compatible numbers for this, it's just a one go around. For each of these, choose a pair of math facts that works best for you and go ahead and work through the problem one time, as long as you are using the right types of numbers and you get something in the neighborhood of these answers. For me, you will be good. All right, let's take a look at our word problems. So I am probably not going to ask my students to do number 11, but we'll talk about that real quick. It says create a division problem with a 2-digit divisor using more than one set of compatible numbers. Observe what happens when you estimate using a different divisor, a different dividend, and when both are different. And then they want you to use a calculator to compare. This is probably the reason why I'm not going to give this to my students, because even though we have phones and so forth, making sure everyone is able to work through all the steps for this can be a concern when we're working from home. Depending on how much parent support you have or how much time you have. This is one that I would love to do with my students in class, and that would be a great tool for kind of helping build understanding with that. But this is probably not what I'm going to give as independent practice. So for number 9 and number 10, of course, we need to find an estimate. Anytime we see the words about how many or about how much, anything along those lines, if we see the word about, we want to find an estimate. So that's our key word when we look at word problems, to tell us that we should be finding an estimate. So we're going to use the strategies from our lesson for that. The 2 on the back, again, we need to find estimates for. For number 14, we can frame 9 pictures per day, and we have an order for 108 pictures. How many days will it take him to complete the order? We are trying to figure out how many times we can do 9 pictures each day to have that go in until we use all 108 pictures. That means we're doing division. And then 3 pages per hour, again, another division problem. Suppose we need to round 432,575 to 433,000. To which place value did you round the numbers? So think about how we're changing, and then we need to choose the place value and the name of the place value for that. I think my lines got cut off when I cropped the picture for this. And our final one says, catering company received an order for 118 apple pies. We use 8 apples to make 1 apple pie. How many apples? How many means we are going to find out how many apples for all 118 pies. So 118 times the number of apples to make 1 pie equals how many apples. So those are the problems for the lesson. I hope this has been helpful for you. There's not a lot of concepts to explain, but it is a little bit of work. So if you're having struggles with this, I hope the video is helping understand the concepts. It may not help with understanding all the basic math facts, but work with your teacher, whether it's me or the teacher that you at the school that you attend, to try to get some help if you need some extra help with understanding this concept. Hope you have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.